the Newcastle situation, Tonali, it's all happened very, very quickly. The Ivan Toney situation seemed to drag out a lot longer. They've got him into investigation. He's admitted everything immediately. Yes, I've been gambling. I'm an addict. I've got to be honest, I accept that there's going to be skepticism when a footballer gets caught gambling and then they claim they're an addict. Like
they always
do. So we're going to say, okay, you might be an addict. We're not saying we don't believe you, but equally, it's a shame because every footballer says it. So they'll know when they look into his gambling habits. So if they look through everything, they'll know, are you a casual bettor or is this just a true addiction? Paul Merson's been on about it today and saying, it's wrong that they are getting banned. These players have addictions. They should be treated in a different way. And I just wanted to know what the table made before, because I am going to be biased to some degree, but also I'm going to try and be honest. What do you lads make of the Tonali situation and these long bans of, the rumour is a year will not see Tonali kick a football?
You got to do it to Tonali what they did to Ivan Toney.
But let's just examine that though. Like, is the fact that Ivan Toney was banned for that length of time a fair thing?
Well, I think what you've got to look at is why you're doing these bans. Like, what is the point of the ban? Are you doing it because you want to punish these guys, because you want to make an example of them? You want young players to look up and go, I'm never going to do that. Is that what it is? Is it punishment? Or are you doing it because you're going, oh right, well, if Tony's betting on his own team, he might play differently, and then that that ruins the competitive aspects of the game. You've got to look at that with Tonali and go, if it's a case of banning him to prevent him doing things he shouldn't do, playing in a way he shouldn't do, compromising the sporting integrity of the game, then it doesn't matter whether he's an addict or not, does it? It doesn't really matter. If I go out in my car tonight and run someone over and I go, I'm sorry, I was drunk, I'm an alcoholic, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't be driving the car. If he's going to ruin the game, if he's going to compromise the sporting integrity of the game because he's going to be betting on himself, betting on other teams that are playing his team, blah, 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 you have to stop him playing football now. If you're doing it to punish him and make him feel bad and to treat other people a lesson, then you can have the argument of going, is that the right thing to do?
Are we in agreement that there should be a difference in punishment based on, are you corrupting the game by performing badly, deliberately giving other teams unfair advantages while betting on them, deliberately getting yellow cards and the like, which was suspected of Ivan Toney, which kind of was why we all expected quite a bad ban, because there was some seriously weird things that had gone on in previous games from him. With Tonali, I'm like, we've just signed this guy. I'm excited. We spent 60 million on him, whatever. He's the biggest Italian fee player in Italian fee ever and all of that. Exciting times. We've barely seen anything of him. He's already going to be out for a year. It's absolutely insane. So if he's been deliberately throwing games or anything, throw the book at him. I accept that. But if he is a genuine gambling addict, do we not think that there should be differences?
You can do both though, can't you? You can punish him and say that the sporting integrity is paramount and we need that to be able to function as a sport and as a entertainment, a game that we love. But you can also then say, while you're in that punishment, you can have therapy. We can help you. There's no reason why both those things have to be exclusive.
So that's a great point. But equally, I guess the counterpoint would be, you're saying you can do both, but if they're not the same, so should they not be treated differently in that sense of a guy who's corrupting the game of football versus a guy who has a mental illness? To punish a man for doing what is his mental illness, to do that, to punish him so badly, is that only going to make things worse for him, make him feel worse, then make him then more likely to do worse things?
As a rule maker, how can you ever decide if someone actually has a problem?
Well, you can't decide from Paul Merson's words, because I don't know anything about gambling addiction. I'm taking my lead from this guy, which is, if you look at a gambling addict's betting apps and the records for everything that they've got their hands on, you should be able to decipher between a guy who's deliberately trying to throw matches. Let's say he's betting against AC Milan, he's betting against himself to get a booking in the 70th minute, whatever, versus he is constantly gambling on all these football matches, fights, horse racing, everything he can get his hands on. You should be able to distinguish between the two and therefore potentially treat him for what we think he should be deserving.
Are they allowed to bet on other sports?
Yeah.
Other sports?
I've got a clue, I'll be honest with you.
No, I think
they are. So they can bet on a boxing match or...
Yeah.
Okay, so then, but that's the thing. If you are an addict, right? A gambling addict, you don't have to necessarily bet on football.
Yeah.
That's where it gets a bit
addiction
dodgy.
Isn't about control, bro. You're
right.
You go to the fridge and you go, you're an addict,
but isn't it about,
you're a food addict, but you don't have to have a Snickers, but that Snickers be called.
I get you, but isn't it about the feeling that comes with it? The rush, the sensation, the kind of... You know what I mean? They're paid very well.
Do you not think
Can I
there's
say
a
one
part of
thing
not
just to give
taking
you
any
context?
accountability here, though?
The alleged thing that was like he had a superstition about if he didn't bet on AC Milan to win, that they wouldn't.
Mate, he's betting on illegal gambling websites. It is as bad as it gets, and he's converting people to bet as well. So he's got a young mate, and he's telling him to go. Oh, do you know what? Don't go on Bet365. Go on this illegal bet.
Oh, he's converting them.
Can we get something clear? Whether he was betting on an illegal gambling website or a legal gambling website, gambling's gambling. Who gives a fuck what website he's using? The way you've put that makes it sound like this dirty secret. It doesn't make a difference.
If he's broke the law, he's broke the law.
Yeah.
Like if he's using a legal gambling website, he's broke the law. So at that point, you go, well, as a club, do you want your players breaking the law? That's a completely separate thing there, whether he's an addict or not. If you broke the law, you broke the law. And I'd imagine most of these footballers, athletes at that level, they have a contract that says you break the law.
But if we're judging players on footballers on morality, like for me, if a footballer privately told me, and I was interviewing him afterwards, he was like, yeah, I've been betting on football, but I only bet on an ACCA and I bet on my team to win and there's nothing in it. I honestly wouldn't give a shit if every single Newcastle footballer did that, because does that change how they play on the football pitch? No. Does it shite?
Do you know what I think there actually should be? I think that footballers should be allowed to have a bet. What I think there should be is there should be an app. You get your PIN for it when you become a Premier League footballer or whatever, and all your bets are then basically monitored under this app. You know, you can't bet on your own team and whatever, and then you're basically saying to them, look, it's a controlled environment here, but you are allowed to place your bets. Of course, you can't bet on your own team. You can't bet on matches that involve you and things like that. But then it's organised. It can be controlled.
I understand the argument against it.
If you're done out of that, you can get the book thrown at you. But I just think there's a massive lack of accountability here. Like, I get the society we live in, the day and age we live in, we all, and I'm not suggesting anyone around this table trying to do that, but we all want to look in a way like we're very sympathetic towards things. But at the end of the day, you know you're not allowed to gamble, right? Or especially betting on matches you're involved in. You say about addiction, yeah, all right, it might be calling you, but at the same time, I know plenty of alcoholics who don't have a drink until they finish work. Like, at the end of the day, when you're paid that amount of money that footballers are, one thing you do when you sort of waive your right, we were saying this about the Greenwood situation, you waive your right to be able to make these little mistakes and things like that. That's part of the hazard pay. That's part of the money you're paid. So by that logic, I truly believe that obviously, you know, when we look at things like this specific situation here, you need to be able to have the accountability to go, I might be a gambling addict, that's completely fine, but I'm still able to make conscious decisions to go, yeah, but I'm not going to do that's going to get me in trouble.
Okay, you've said a lot there. So on the one hand, with gambling, with addicts, like any addict, the scale varies, right? So we all know people who can hold their alcohol addiction till a certain time of day and then they get legless, okay? But we don't know where he is on the scale. So I have no idea on that. I think your idea for a betting app is good, but also I do understand that the reason, there's another reason. Footballers talk. You know who's on form, who's injured, who you get information, inside information. It makes your bets less fair than the average guy on the street betting who doesn't know all these things. So I understand why footballers shouldn't bet, and I'm not supporting that they should. I'm just trying to explore this in a...
Can I ask you a question without trying to at all write off what Tonali has said and what the people around him are saying about him being addicted? We're talking about betting here. Imagine you're a bookmaker, right? Give me odds. What are the odds on the next player who gets caught saying they're a gambling addict?
100%.
Of course.
1,000,000 to 1 on.
Yeah.
So now we're setting a precedent, aren't we? Whether it's right or wrong, whether it's true or false, you know now every single player that gets caught for this is going to say, well, I'm addicted.
Just going back to the length of the ban.
The length of the ban is harsh, in my opinion.
What is the length? What is the length?
Yeah,
it's looking like a year.
They haven't officially.
The other guy's been given a year, so what they're expecting is parity. You know?
It does feel harsh. It does feel harsh. The only thing I would say is it kind of has to be harsh to deter players from doing it. If it's not harsh and it's like 4 months, more players might think...
I think, right, knowing what we know and seeing how often it's coming to light now, right, there's a lot of footballers, and I mean a lot of footballers sitting there now.
Shitting themselves.
Especially in the lower leagues.
Yeah.
Like when you get to like League One, it's prevalent there, honestly.
I bet
Vardy's prolific.
Well, yeah, but it's not just prevalent there, but also at that level, you got a mortgage to pay. You got kids to feed. It's very different. Like Tonali, you know, the thing that a lot of people don't understand with footballers' contracts, it's not just set 200 grand a week. You get your 200 grand a week. It's simple as that. A lot of it is whether you play or not, whether you do this, blah 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 blah. And if you get banned for a long portion of time like that, there'll be some kind of insurance in the contract where you don't get paid properly. If you're League One and you don't get paid, that's a problem.
Yeah, you're fucked.
That's a serious problem. And that's why, you're right, they do have to set a bit of precedent with this. At the same time, you do have to think about the well-being of the player. And at some point, you have to acknowledge the fact that half the teams are walking around with betting companies on the shirts. Like, there's
That's the problem, the hypocrisy.
These players have literally grown up. You're like Ivan Toney, how old is he? 28?
Yep.
He's grown up in this culture. So at some point, what does he say? Like, what do you expect me to do? But bear in mind, these players, they can't party.
Some of them really, can we just clarify though? One thing I want to say is some of them really are betting addicts. Like Michael Chopra, who played for Newcastle, basically was notorious for, Kieran Dyer sat down and told me about, he would be betting wages he didn't even have on contracts he hadn't even been offered yet. Like, because he was seeing the culture of the club and he was trying to bet along with the big boys when he was just breaking through into the first team as the next Alan Shearer. That never happened. And he was getting into trouble, and Kieran Dyer was having to say to people like, don't fucking bet with this guy. So some of them really are addicts. But I'm not defending Tonali here, actually. I'm actually really angry. I'm fucking pretty furious, actually, because he hasn't been pulling up trees since he came.
Can we also just say, did AC Milan know about this?
Well,
because it's very interesting that they sold one of their best players for a big load of money.
No, he was Mr. Milan. It wasn't even, it's like John Terry leaving Chelsea.
Really? But this is the thing.
Mate, he
At
was,
that young age?
Bro, he was
how old is
homegrown.
he? 23, 24.
Yeah, and also he was the most expensive Italian player ever. Yeah. And he was the guy who everyone was like, that guy is Mr. Milan for the next 10 years. Loved the club, grew up there. There was no reason for them to need to sell him, essentially, aside from, all right, it was good money, but...
And they made Leao the guy now.
And I've got to be honest, there's sympathy there if he's in a bad way mentally, but as a Newcastle fan, my loyalty is to my club. And essentially what you've done is you've hidden that from them, got through the doors. We're now stuck paying you a massive contract that could have went to a Maddison who's absolutely tearing it up right now, who we didn't sign. We signed this guy as the priority. He's been good at times, but he's been average at times. I don't know what the hell we're getting in the long run, but one thing I do know is a year out on the sidelines isn't helping anyone. And I'm really, as much as it's hard because I don't, the guy might be going through something here, but for Newcastle's sake, I'm really fucked off about it. Like, you haven't been great since you've been playing, and now this, and you knew the whole time. So, all right, you're an addict, but you're a liar. Because there was no way when we did our personality check that this was on the fucking radar. And we're now spending a fuck ton of money paying this kid every week for the next 12 months. And for nothing?
Yeah, but then how much responsibility do you think lies with Newcastle for not doing that due diligence on him?
Well, that was the maddest thing is Eddie has this thing about the character of the players he wants.
Yeah.
He's very big on that. But you'll never know if someone is gambling.
No, but what I mean is if AC Milan were assuming or potentially knew,
I bet
people, like you said, people talk in football, right? It's like, it's not going to be, if they know, then surely someone's told someone else. There's got to be murmurs at least of it.
Well, I bet you there's legal action being considered by Newcastle right now.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. There'll be something in that contract that saves them a bit. They won't be paying him his full wage anymore. But this is part of the thing though about buying from Italy. It's very different from buying from Spain or Germany, where you've probably got a few Spanish players already, a few German players already. Italian players never come to the Premier League. There won't be those kind of connections. Newcastle won't know people at AC Milan. Do you know what I mean? That's why something like this maybe can slip under the radar just a little bit easier when you're buying an Italian player from an Italian club where you've got no relationship.
I've got a question for the table. I just want individual answers. If Tonali is found to have only been betting on games for Milan to win and harmless stuff like that, and he isn't involved in any corruption, do we think that should be the same ban if he was fucking deliberately getting yellow cards and all of that?
Absolutely not. If you're throwing matches, if you're involved in the outcome of what you're betting on, it should be a much more serious ban. If you are just having an accumulator every single Saturday and you're putting teams that you don't have any involvement in that match, I believe it should be a lesser ban. If it was down to me, as I say, I'd have a system where players can put a bet on.
What do you say, lad? Same?
It's a tricky one because it's not the same, but this is the reasons I don't even do fantasy football and stuff, because it's I don't like splitting my loyalty among different things. Do you know what I mean? So when you got another team, maybe you're not betting on your own team, but then you could bet on another team that's potentially in a title race with you, or do you know what I mean? Or a team that you're fighting with for relegation places. It could get a bit weird. Do you know what I mean?
I think there should be a disparity between the length of punishment, but I still think the punishment should be just as severe because we care so much about this game. And like you saw how invested I am in this match, right? I've watched football for a very long time. I've been lucky enough to have a season ticket at Chelsea for a very long time. If I knew that any one of those games had any question of being thrown or wasn't completely fair, it would ruin the love of the sport that I have. And so I feel with these guys, you have to punish them because we love this sport. And if it's affected by people doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, I think it does ruin it.
You know the thing about Tonali is he was Mr. Milan, dedicated, absolute, like seen as a warrior for them. And he definitely didn't play the game like someone who had twisted loyalties at all. And I'm very angry at him. I feel like we've been lied to. I feel like we've wasted a lot of money, and just on him, right? When I look at the entire transfer business that we did this summer, you think about what we're looking to achieve Newcastle on all fronts. We've got 2 fullbacks who are backups, who are kids, right? They're not playing. They're not starting ever. Oof. They never start games. We've got Bonds from Leicester. He's injured. Then we've got Tonali, who's out.
You're right to blame Tonali though. Like this is his fault. He knows that he can't be betting. Yeah. He can't be betting, and he has. He's broken the rules, and he's going to be punished accordingly.
And that was the thing that Paul Merson wasn't coming out with, was like there was just no accountability.
Oh, we know why Paul Merson's not.
Paul was just very like, oh, you know, it's not his fault and all of that. And I'm like, look, I'm not saying it's his fault that he's a gambling addict, but the fact that he kept it quiet, and now we're in the situation we're in. We've paid all that money, and you've got Maddison tearing it up down the road. It pisses me off.
Yeah. My sort of final word that I would say on it is I completely agree with Josh in terms of I think there's a way that we can sort of battle both cases here. We can punish Tonali, and at the same time, if he is a gambling addict, we can give him help. But it's just my opinion that the way society's going and whatnot, it's very much looking like we're looking to go, okay, well, you're a gambling addict. I just don't believe that's right. That's not the way that I would deal with things.
A year seems, and I'm not just saying this because it's a Newcastle thing. I think for any footballer to use a year of your career for placing some bets, if no corruption is going on, is harsh, and it's a lot. You know what I mean? It's a massive loss to your career.
But the punishments, Brian, have to be severe so that people don't do this.
That's what
like if it's just a 2-week ban, like people will be betting left, right, and centre. Like it has to be severe. It's the same with doping.
In compared to taking performance-enhancing drugs, it shouldn't be more severe than that.
Yeah, but you taking testosterone, making yourself slightly better, is very different from you completely throwing a game.
But that's not what you're saying. We're not saying he's been proven to throw games. We're literally just saying he's gambled on games.
He's bet on his own team to win,
yeah.
But that doesn't matter.
Realistically, if you're not betting on your own team to win, I'd question you even more then. Like, you know, like as in, that's fine to me. I don't see a problem in that.
It's really bad to bet
on your own team to win.
Ivan Toney had bet on his own team to lose, hadn't he?
When he played for Newcastle, but he wasn't actually playing in those games, to be fair to him. So, like, the point is I accept Josh's point. You need a severe punishment to deter people, but we're also not using a lot of common sense in what is going on here, in my opinion. And it's just like this blanket attitude to stop people from potentially being corrupt. But if they're not actually proven to be corrupt, should we punish them as corrupt anyway? That's a bit... Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, shoplifting and stealing a Lamborghini are two different things.
Well, what we're talking about, Brian, is whether he's going to get a 3-year... But what you're talking about there is whether he gets a 3-year ban or whether he gets a 1-year ban.
I think 3 years is insane.
Insane.
3 years, you've ruined his career.
But the 3-year ban, can I just say, the laws are there for a reason, right? The 3-year ban is if he's actively bet on his own team, he's changed the results of matches, and he's actively resulted in something, corrupt. Right? So that's why that punishment is there. He's never going to get that because he hasn't done that, right? But that's what we're talking about here. It's not whether he is going to get nothing or a year. It's the difference in punishments. That's all we're talking about.
That's what I'm saying is I think a year, if he hasn't done anything that severe, it's a lot. It's a massive amount of time to lose, and I think it's excessive.